For the first question, we are given the heights in centimeter of 160 sunflower plants, and the results are summarized in the following cumulative frequency curve. We can see that this is a less than cumulative frequency curve, so this is less than CF. And how do we identify whether if it's a less than CF? Is if it's starting from the lowest point, which is 0, that will be less than CF. If it's starting from the highest point on the cumulative frequency, that will be a more than curve. And in A levels, we only study about the less than cumulative frequency curve. We need to figure out the number of plants with heights less than 10 centimeter. And in order to figure out this number, we're going to use the graph. Alright, since I already told that this is a less than curve, which means that if we're going to need the numbers of sunflowers that is less than 40 centimeter, we can just look up straight. So 40 is right here, and then the corresponding CF will be the required number, which in this case I think will be 16. So 16 sunflowers will have a height of less than 40 centimeters. So we need to figure out the same for 100 centimeter. So here is 80 and that's 120. So right in the middle, that's going to be the 100 centimeter. All right, then the straight line through it will be right here. So this point. And the corresponding cumulative frequency is 60, which means that 60 sunflowers are going to have the heights less than 100 centimeter. So the required answer for question A will be 60. So for the second question, we need to use the graph to estimate the 65th percentile of the distribution. So this is just going to be that point in which the number of sunflowers out of 160, so that's going to be 65% of sunflowers less than a certain point. So we're going to figure out that point, which will be in centimeter. So we know that the total number of sunflowers is 160. So the 65th percentile of the sunflower is going to be just 65% of 160. That's going to be 65 by 100 into 160, which is going to be 104. So we require the heights in centimeter for which 104 sunflowers are going to be less than that particular height. So let's look at the graph. So we have the 100 sunflowers right here. We need to look for 104 sunflowers. So that's going to be here. That's 104, and then the corresponding point in the curve is going to be this point. Now the corresponding point on the height axis or the x-axis is going to be right here. All right, we know that here is 120, here is 160, which means that this point is going to be 140. And this is the fourth point in between 120 and 140, which means that the required height will be 136. So that is going to be the 65th percentile of the distribution. That's going to be the height of 136 centimeter. So this just means that 65% of the total sunflowers, which is 160, that's going to be 104. So this just means that 104 of the sunflowers are going to have a height less than 136 centimeter. Now for the third question, we need to use the graph in order to estimate the interquartile range of the heights of these plants. So we know that interquartile range is just going to be the upper quartile of Q3 minus the lower quartile of Q1. And if we draw a line to represent all of the data, so the lowest point is going to be the smallest value, the highest point is going to be the largest value, and in between there's going to be the median, so that's Q2, and in between the smallest value and the median there's going to be the lower quartile of Q1, and in between the median value and the largest value there's going to be the upper quartile Q3. So this just means that this is a 0%, that's 25, that's 50, that's 75, and the highest value is going to be obviously the 100% one. So we need to figure out Q3 and Q1. So in order to figure out these values, we need to figure out the 75th percentile and 25th percentile. So we're just going to repeat the same process that we did for the second part of this question. So for 75%, that's just going to be 75% of 160, which is going to be 75 by 100 into 160, which will be equal to 120. So that's going to be the number of sunflowers, and we need to figure out the corresponding height for which these sunflowers is going to be less than that particular value. So 75th percentile, that's the upper quartile Q3. So we need to look at the graph again. So we're looking at 120 sunflowers, which is right here. Then the point on the curve will be right here. Alright, then the corresponding point on the x-axis or the height axis will be somewhere around here. So if this is 140, that's going to be 144, that's going to be 148. So this number is somewhere in between 148 and 152. So let's just assume it to be in the middle. So that's going to be 150. So 150 centimeter will be the upper quartile value. Alright, now we need to figure out the lower quartile, which means that we need to figure out the 25th percentile. So that's going to be 25% of 160, which is 25 by 100 into 160. This gives us a value of 40. So we're looking for a number on the height for which 40 sunflowers are going to be less than that particular height. So that's 25th percentile, or the lower quartile Q1. So we're looking at the graph again for 40 sunflowers. So that's going to be right here. And the point on the curve is here, which has a corresponding point on the height axis right here. So that's 80, which means that this value is going to be 76. So the lower quartile will have a value of 76. So that's 76 centimeter. Now we need to figure out the interquartile range. So let's just substitute the value. That is 150 minus 76, which gives us the interquartile range of 74 centimeter.